Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. I'm so excited you're joining me today because we're diving into something truly profound. When we look at the vast pages of history and scripture, we usually focus on those towering, famous figures, right? Names like Moses, David, Elijah, people remembered for their absolutely extraordinary faith. But hidden right there among these massive accounts is this incredibly fascinating mystery. Today, our explainer is zeroing in on a hidden biblical figure whose influence stretched way, way beyond his own lifetime. We're going to unpack the literal mechanics of how someone builds a lasting multi-generational influence. And to do that, we're looking at the legacy of a man named Jehonadab. So let me ask you, how long will you be remembered? It's kind of a heavy question, isn't it? The harsh, universal reality is that most of us are going to be completely forgotten within a single generation. I mean, think about your own great-great-grandparents. Do you know their names? Do you have any idea what they stood for? Probably not. But today, we're exploring a razor-sharp contrast to that normal human forgetfulness. We are looking at a guy whose personal integrity literally shaped his family for hundreds of years. Section 1. The man who shaped centuries. So who exactly was this man who completely defied the odds of history? Well, his name was Jehonadab, sometimes called Jonadab, and he makes a very brief but incredibly high-impact appearance in Scripture. He lived during a really dramatic period in Israel's history. Basically, Jehonadab actually partnered with King Jehu. Now, Jehu was the king specifically chosen to wipe out the corrupt, incredibly pervasive influence of Baal worship from the nation of Israel. And when Jehu carried out this massive cultural and spiritual purge, Jehonadab didn't just sit on the sidelines watching. No, he joined right in. He fiercely demonstrated his commitment to spiritual purity. While our source texts only give us a handful of details about his life, those details paint this vivid picture of a man with ironclad convictions, absolutely determined to preserve godly values in his nation, and most importantly, in his family. Section 2. The unusual commands. Now, what makes Jehonadab especially noteworthy isn't just what he did while he was alive. It's actually what happened after he was gone. He left a highly specific and, frankly, pretty surprising set of nomadic rules for his descendants, who eventually became known as the Rechabites. Here are the rules. No drinking wine, no building permanent houses, no planting vineyards. You must live strictly sojourners, basically nomads, living in tents. Now, if you're looking at this today, you're probably thinking, wow, okay, that is incredibly strict, right? Why on earth would someone ask future generations to live like that? It seems pretty extreme. But the thing is, these weren't just arbitrary, random restrictions. They were highly calculated safeguards. You see, Jehonadab had this deep, timeless understanding of human nature. He knew that environments shape people. He fully understood that the surrounding culture was packed with spiritual dangers and distractions that could slowly erode his family's faith over time. So by instructing his family to live as nomads, completely separate from the settled, agricultural, and honestly often corrupt city cultures of that time, he was actively engineering a safe environment. He wanted his family permanently insulated from influences that could water down their commitment to God. He was essentially building a fortress around their identity and their core values. Section 3. Tested after 300 years. This brings us to what I think is one of the absolute most extraordinary examples of generational faithfulness ever recorded in human history. We start back at Jehonadab's era. Then we have a massive 300-year gap. 3 whole centuries. Just think about how many governments change, how many wars get fought, how many entire cultures completely morph in 300 years. And then, at the very end of that massive gap, we arrive at the prophet Jeremiah's test. Because yes, for 300 years, the Rechabites had been quietly, faithfully obeying those strict nomadic rules we just talked about. So, nearly 300 years later, God actually instructs the prophet Jeremiah to test this family. And let me tell you, this was not a casual little pop quiz. This was intense. First off, Jeremiah brings members of the Rechabite family directly into the sacred temple, literally the holiest place in their world. Second, they're offered wine by Jeremiah himself, and remember, he is a highly respected, well-known prophet of God. Third, just imagine the massive social and religious pressure in that room. You've got a literal prophet telling you to drink wine in the temple. Surely, after 300 years, this is the exact moment you'd finally break your ancestors' rule, right? I mean, it would be so incredibly convenient to just give in. But look at their response. "We will drink no wine, for Jehonadab the son of Rechab, our father, commanded us." No way. They refused. Even under the immense pressure of a prophet standing right there in a sacred setting, they completely held the line. They explained that their ancestor Jehonadab had laid down this command, and not only had they remained obedient, but their children, their grandchildren, and generations before them had done the exact same thing. This absolute, unwavering obedience had miraculously survived for 3 whole centuries. Just to put that into perspective, entire nations struggle to preserve their core values for just a couple of decades. Families routinely lose important, deeply held traditions within a single generation. Yet here we have the Rechabites maintaining their absolute commitment through changing cultures, crazy political upheavals, and immense social pressure for centuries. This unbroken chain of commitment stands as a towering, undeniable testimony to the true power of integrity. Section 4. True meaning of integrity. So, what exactly does this ancient story teach us today? Well, we often hear integrity defined simply as, doing the right thing when no one is watching. But true integrity is actually so much more profound than that. It is the consistent alignment of your actions with your values, regardless of the circumstances, the convenience, or the pressure you're facing. Jehonadab's life and the subsequent lives of his family members prove that integrity doesn't just stop with the individual. When it is consistently practiced, integrity literally creates lasting influence. In fact, their integrity was so profound that God actually used the Rechabites as a living, breathing object lesson for the entire nation of Judah. God pointed directly to their sustained earthly obedience as the ultimate piece of evidence to challenge his own people's lack of faithfulness. And the logic here was absolutely piercing. If these human beings can faithfully honor the strict commands of an earthly ancestor for generations, how much more should God's own people be able to honor his commands? It was this massive, powerful wake-up call to a culture that had completely lost its way. Section 5. Your generational legacy. Now, we're taking this ancient history lesson and turning it into an urgent modern-day reflection for us right now. A lot of people today focus intensely on the legacy they're going to leave in terms of material inheritance. Wealth, businesses, properties, big bank accounts. And look, while those things certainly have value, they're incredibly fragile. They rarely endure. Money gets spent, businesses eventually fail, properties change ownership over time. But consider a character inheritance. Passing down values, principles, and true integrity leaves an unshakable, enduring inheritance. Character is the one thing that cannot be wiped out in a stock market crash. But how is that character actually passed down? Well, long before we had modern studies on leadership and family dynamics, Jehonadab already understood this absolutely crucial principle. Convictions must be intentionally modeled. Future generations learn far, far more from silent observation than they do from loud instruction. Think about it. Children observe our everyday decisions. They notice if promises are actually kept. They watch incredibly closely to see if our principles are maintained during the hard times or if they're just tossed aside when obedience gets a little inconvenient or costly. Over time, those daily, silent observations shape their very own choices. You literally have to live in a way that makes your convictions worthy of being followed. Which naturally leads us to ask this critical question: what kind of legacy are you building? We live in a world that constantly, almost obsessively, values immediate gratification over lasting character. Principles get adjusted daily just to fit our convenience. But every single decision we make contributes to the legacy we leave behind. The small, seemingly insignificant habits you practice today might just become the exact examples that others follow tomorrow. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are your actions right now, today, reinforcing the values you actually hope to pass on? Listen, integrity might not always bring you immediate recognition. It might not get you a round of applause from the culture around you. But as Jehonadab's incredible story clearly demonstrates, true integrity can create a legacy that influences generations long, long after your lifetime has ended. Take some time to reflect on your daily actions today. If this explainer inspired you and you want to keep grasping these complex, transformational biblical lessons through clear, structured analysis, please make sure to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and join us for the next one. I'll see you in the next explainer.